the man who appeared in the Tokyo airport with a passport from a non-existent country. "Sir, where are you from?" The man in the grey suit didn't hesitate. He smiled politely and replied with a single word, "Taured." And with that, he opened a mystery that Japan has never solved. Tokyo Haneda Airport, July 1954. A humid summer afternoon. The airport buzzed with its usual blend of tourists, businessmen and diplomats. Signs moved slowly. Fans whirred from corners, struggling to push warm air across the tiled floors. The customs officers, half lost in routine, barely looked up from their desks, until a man stepped forward and presented a passport that didn't exist. He was well dressed, European-looking, early 40s with a neat beard and short dark hair. His accent was hard to place, not quite French, not quite German, but something between. His suit was tailored, his shoes polished. In every way he looked like a businessman. Unremarkable, except for the country listed on his passport. The officer blinked. Taured? He double-checked the stamp. The man's passport looked genuine, official seal, visa stamps, custom holograms, but something was wrong. There was no country named Taured. The officer called a supervisor. They checked an atlas. Then another. No Taured. The man grew visibly confused, even irritated. He insisted it was a real nation, had been for centuries. He said it was located between France and Spain, what we would know today as Andorra. But the man scoffed. "Andorra? You never heard of it. My country's been around for 1,000 years." He pulled out currency from several European countries, all legitimate. His wallet contained multiple bank cards. His documents, including his driver's license, all bore the same origin. Even more unsettling, the passport had visa stamps from countries that recognized Taured as real, including a Japanese stamp. From a previous visit, he'd been here before. Immigration officers were now thoroughly alarmed. They took the man aside for questioning. "Where are you going?" they asked. "To Tokyo. I have a business meeting. I come here often. 3rd time this year," he said. They called the company he named. No one had heard of him. The hotel he claimed to have reserved a room at, no reservation. The number he provided for his contact was a dead line, and yet the man remained calm. Confused, but calm. That's when things turned stranger. They escorted him to a guarded hotel room. 15th floor, 2 armed officers outside the door. He didn't resist, said he understood the situation and just wanted to get some rest until it was sorted. He entered the room at 10:46 p.m. By 8 o'clock a.m. the next morning, the man had vanished, gone, disappeared, without a trace. The guards had never left their posts. The windows didn't open. The drop from the 15th floor would have been fatal. No one saw him leave. The room was exactly as he'd left it, except for one thing. Every single document he'd brought with him was gone. The passport, the wallet, the licenses, the business cards, the tickets, vanished as if they'd never existed. The Japanese authorities launched an investigation, but they had nothing to go on. No fingerprints, no luggage, no name, just a vanishing man with a passport from a country that doesn't exist. Years passed, files were quietly closed. The man was labelled an anomaly, a fluke of perception. Some said it was a hoax. Others believed it was a diplomatic stunt gone wrong, but no one could explain it, and no one ever saw the man again. But then the stories began. People from Tokyo to Turin began reporting encounters with strangers who claimed to be from Taured, always polite, always confused when told the country didn't exist. Each time they vanished without a trace, and each time they left behind nothing except the same eerie question: what if our world isn't the only one? The map that didn't match, and the man who insisted it did. There's a reason the story of the man from Taured refuses to die. It's not just the eerie setting, the missing documents, or the fact that he vanished under guarded watch. It's the deeper implication that geography, something we consider fixed and absolute, might not be. To understand the full weight of this mystery, we have to go back before Tokyo, before 1954. Position 2, this wasn't the first time something like this happened. Throughout history, there have been strange cases of people always alone who appear in a place with documents, knowledge, and a cultural background that doesn't match any known world map. In 1851, a man was arrested in Frankfurt, Germany for theft. When questioned, he spoke a language no one could recognize. He pointed to a map and insisted his country, Laksayat, existed in what is now the Balkans. His coins bore the crest of a land that had never existed. No translation ever succeeded. After 2 weeks, he simply died. Without explanation, the case was sealed. In 1905 in Paris, a woman claimed to be from Lesbia, a nation she said bordered the Eastern Mediterranean Empire, but that empire had never existed. She could read ancient Greek fluently, but struggled with modern French. She said she was a cartographer. She was institutionalised. Her drawings of world maps, wildly different from ours, remain in a museum archive. Then, in the 1920s, came the man from Orea, detained in Brazil after trying to claim diplomatic status on behalf of a Southern Island coalition. No such alliance existed. He carried ornate gold coins with marine animals on them. Within days, he vanished from his locked cell. Surveillance at the time was limited and guards were fired, but no explanation was ever recorded. All these events shared patterns. A well-dressed individual, documents from a non-existent country, deep, consistent knowledge of that world's customs, geography and language, calm demeanour, and always unexplained disappearance or death. So when the 1954 Tokyo incident occurred, those who knew of the earlier cases saw a disturbing continuity. Now back to the man from Taured. When he was shown a standard world map, he was visibly offended. "That's wrong," he said, tracing his finger over the Pyrenees Mountains. "My country is right here. Taured, it's been there for 1,000 years. How can you not know this?" He claimed his country bordered both Spain and France, a lush alpine territory with a strong export economy. He mentioned historic alliances with Portugal, trade with North Africa, and a parliamentary system similar to Switzerland. But the problem was everything else about him matched our world. He spoke fluent French and Japanese. He knew Japanese yen conversion rates. He recognised Tokyo landmarks and listed previous flights through Paris and Hong Kong. He understood technology, culture, even current global politics. But he wasn't delusional. He was informed. Everything about him was consistent, except where he came from. And then there was his passport. Airport staff reported it was the most convincing forgery they had ever seen, except there was no reason to forge something no one had ever heard of. The passport bore watermarks, raised lettering and detailed immigration stamps, including previous Japanese entries. It had visa stamps from countries that allegedly had no record of issuing them. Everything looked real. Until it didn't. Investigators checked with international embassies. No country recognised Taured. No embassies had records of anyone travelling under that nationality. The stamps couldn't be verified, but neither could they be definitively debunked. Everything was perfectly wrong. So how do you explain someone who doesn't exist, carrying documents that shouldn't exist from a country that has never existed, who acting like nothing is out of the ordinary? Here's where it gets deeper. In his brief time under Japanese supervision, the man from Taured spoke of his business in Tokyo. He mentioned a partner who never showed up. He named a company that didn't exist in the registry, but his knowledge of Tokyo's districts, Shinjuku, Ikebukuro, Minato, was precise, as if he'd been here many times before. The question isn't just who he was, it's where he was from, because if the geography he described doesn't match our world, then maybe the world he came from wasn't ours at all. Excellent. The vanishing man gone from a locked room. The mystery of the man from Taured peaked not when he arrived at Tokyo Haneda Airport, but when he vanished from a locked hotel room under government watch without a single trace left behind. Here's what we know. After several hours of interrogation, immigration officials decided to detain the man overnight while contacting international authorities. His answers were calm, consistent, and unsettlingly confident. He remained convinced the misunderstanding would soon be cleared up. When asked if he'd prefer a lawyer, he looked puzzled. Why? They've done nothing wrong. His behaviour was not erratic, he was composed. If anything, he seemed mildly annoyed. Officials arranged for him to be taken to the Hotel Tokyo Bay, a government-affiliated building used for diplomatic detentions and high-security guests. The room assigned was on the 15th floor, facing the harbour. It had a double-locked door, an interior latch, and no balcony. The windows were sealed shut. At 10:46 p.m, he was escorted by two uniformed guards to room 1523. Surveillance confirmed he entered alone. Guards remained outside the door for the rest of the night, operating in 4-hour shifts. He never came out. At 8:00 a.m. the next morning, officials arrived to escort him back to the immigration office. The door was still latched from the inside. The guards reported no disturbances, no movement, no knocks, no sound. But when they opened the room, he was gone. The bed was made, the lights were off, the window was still locked, no footprints, no DNA, no signs of escape. But perhaps the most disturbing discovery was what was missing. Everything, the passport, wallet, currency, business papers, and even the clothing he'd worn upon entering were gone, not left behind, not stolen, gone, as if they had never existed. Even the logbooks and temporary identification slips issued by immigration the night before had vanished from the hotel records. Security footage from the hallway, intact. It showed no one entering or leaving room 1523 during the night. The man had, by all appearances, simply ceased to exist. Hotel staff were questioned. No one had seen or heard anything unusual. The floor's electronic access logs showed no door entries between 11 o'clock p.m. and 8 o'clock a.m. It wasn't until the room was examined more thoroughly that investigators found one thing, a small folded piece of paper tucked behind the lamp on the writing desk. Just 5 words, in perfect English, "I am going back now." That was it. No signature, no date, no clue how it got there, no fingerprints, not even his. When it was sent for analysis, the paper turned out to be manufactured using pulp sourced in Algeria, a country where the man had said he'd travelled for trade many times. But even stranger, the ink on the note didn't match any standard brand. It contained trace elements of manganese and a rare carbon variant not used in modern commercial pens. No lab could identify its source. That was the final lead. After that, nothing. The room was sealed. The incident was quietly removed from public reports. Internal memos suggested a mistaken identity or passport fabrication, but those involved knew better. Behind closed doors, whispers spread. A man with no country came through our world for just one night and then went back to wherever or whenever he came from. The story never officially made it to the newspapers, but one airport officer leaked the details years later on a now deleted radio interview in Osaka. That broadcast, archived and translated years later, reignited the mystery. Ever since then, stories have continued from airports in Singapore, London, Zurich, even Sao Paulo, scattered reports of individuals with impossible documents claiming citizenship from places that don't exist, and sometimes they vanished too.